Yeah, it's really good. It has the function keys there.
Okay. Is there a way to turn? Oh, that's nice. How do you do that?
What are you trying to turn, Guy?
Is there a way to turn away the avatar? Because I'm always looking at the avatars on the back. Okay.
Yeah, there is a way.
Yeah, where is it?
Okay, thanks, Matt.
They have events in their campuses
Okay.
as well.
Hello, everybody. Just want to let you know that the live video is about to start broadcasting.
Nice.
So we'll be broadcasting in just a few moments.
You guys want to go closer to the stage?
Yeah, let's.
Come on, Steffi. Forward.
Matt, when we go out and network, do we have bubbles, or will we just the sound won't be bad if it's not
Hi
bubbles?
guys, how are you?
Hey, Sebastian. So
I'm
give
good.
me a second, Sebastian. I'm just going to say welcome really quickly to the Facebook Live audience. Thank you all for coming and welcome. I did want to let you know that we are, we start with a little bit of networking. So you're going to get some, you're just going to get some random voices and hearing people talking until we start the presentations. But I did want to let you know that we are broadcasting. If you're watching, welcome. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to seeing you in the rest of the presentation. Thanks.
Hi everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey. Been busy. Yeah, I think that it's been an interesting year, especially with COVID and everything. Yeah, so we'll talk more. I guess we'll talk more about it, but overall, gone. Okay. Well, I'm relatively new to science. So I've been yeah. Oh, I see that everybody's here. So all the 96 people are like for this event specifically, or there are like other events in parallel? In the conference, okay. In here in like the conference room, but like everybody, like the 97 people here are like.
Good, man. Long time no see. Who knew we'd meet each other in a virtual space?
I forgot you guys work together.
Doing good, man. Doing good. Maybe we can catch up after.
We can set
chat
those.
here.
Matt, should we set the
Are you
chat bubble?
doing freelance?
Yeah, let me do that now. Give me a second.
Hey
everybody, I'm just letting you know really quickly. I'm going to turn Spatialized Voice off, and I'm gonna actually, for anyone who wants to have networking conversations, we're going to put the private volumes on the floor right now. So if you're standing inside of a blue circle, you will only be able to see the people who are inside the same blue circle with you.
Thank
so
you, Matt.
Pay attention. And now we have private volumes. So again, if you're in one of the blue circles, you'll only be able to hear people who are in the same blue circle with you. If you're outside of it, you'll be able to hear whoever's outside.
Follow me. Yeah, go to that blue circle.
You want to join us, Joanna?
And I'm going to switch it back to Spatialized Voice right now. Again, everybody in Facebook world, thank you for joining us. Facebook Live. That would be Francis. Everyone else, please say hello.
Hello.
Hey.
What are you just standing in the corner for?
Oh, because I walked away and I went to actually get my required traditional during the event beer.
Oh,
And
I got you.
you want to go? You want to go talk to Facebook Live? We got Francis here. I can't. There's a couple other people watching too. I can't tell who they are, but Francis said hello.
Oh, nice. 1 second.
Hey, guy.
Hey, you have a clone? How do you? Why do I see the two of you?
All right, there's two of me. One of me is me, actually me, active me, and the other me is sitting over there. He's actually
Yeah, this is
kind
like
of
one
in
of
a
the
camera
effects.
mode, floating over the stage, and that's the me that does the live stream. So he can actually the live stream me can actually hear us right now. So we're talking close
Okay.
enough to him that he can hear us. So everybody on Facebook Live is hearing our conversation, and even though they can't really see us because what they're looking at is the stage.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Nice. That's creepy.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, but it's a neat thing that these virtual spaces allow. It is a really cool way that we can basically have kind of the camera. So I have a floating, sort of a floating camera view of the stage.
I see. Okay.
And that way, we can. It makes it possible for us to be able to do the live streaming, which is really good.
Cool. Okay. So everybody should just come in now, or what's the...
Yep, people are already starting to trickle in. They're doing the networking. In about 5 minutes, we will actually start the event itself.
Okay, so I'll mingle.
That works.
Is there anything missing? So the people in the circles can hear us, so only the people outside of the circles can hear us.
The circles on the grounds are what are called a private volume. So if you cross the line, you'll only be able to hear what's inside your circle.
Yeah, I figured that one out. But the people that if I speak outside of the circle, the people inside the circle can hear me, or I need to get into the circle?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, when you're in the circle, it's almost like being in a completely separate room. Only the people inside. You can only hear the other people who are in the circle with you, and you can only. It's actually something that I should do. You know what? I think I'm going to try that really quickly. In the live stream, because the live stream people, they really don't get to see some of the magic here. So I'm going to show them really quickly. Oops.
Yeah. So they see what the fake Matthew.
So I'm going to show. I'm actually going to have them look around the room really quickly, and that way they can kind of see. So the live stream right now is floating sort of up above the room. He can see some of the people in some of these circles, and I'll turn around and show the live stream audience where the camera person is, which is where you and I are standing right now, over in the corner talking.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who are watching the live stream on Facebook, you can actually see how it looks inside the room beyond just the standard camera view of the stage that we always give you, which is pretty much right about here. And now that I've got that locked down, I was able to show the people on Facebook Live what the room actually looks like, because it is kind of neat. And I guess if you're coming in on Facebook Live, you don't really get to see anything other than the stage itself.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. All right.
Okay.
That was fun.
I thought it was pretty fun, yeah. Okay, so
Yeah, just walking in any of the circles with the people. There we go. I see Cam from Cabela, so he's probably going to speak. That's good.
Yeah. Okay.
And who's this? We got Nate B. Hello, Nate.
Hi. How are you?
How's it going?
Good. Thanks. Just getting the lay of the land here.
Yep, it's a little interesting. We'll in a couple of minutes we'll actually put seating out in the audience area, and then people can sit down. But in the meantime, you can just walk into any of the circles and network with the people who are talking.
Great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Guy, you can also feel free to grab a seat on stage.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, I'm just moving between the bubbles, trying to find like an interesting. If you turn off the bubbles, if you turn off the bubbles, everybody will hear everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Okay.
Which means that you're going to be the same volume to everybody in the room. And what we're going to do right now is we are going to set up the chairs. Oops. I need to go here to be able to set up the tables and the chairs so that people can sit. If you're not presenting, please grab a seat. And we are going to get started. And Sonia, I will leave it to you. Take it away.
Thank you. I'm so impressed with how quickly you set this room.
Nice.
That is just fantastic.
Can you get us a few more chairs here on the stage?
Okay, well, they're getting the chairs set up on stage. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the program tonight. We are going to be discussing immersive technology in health, wellness, and fitness. And this is, can everybody hear me okay? Matt, I'm doing all right?
You're doing great.
Okay, great.
We can hear you.
Excellent. Okay. So a few things just to get started. Basically, if you guys will just make sure everyone is muted when you're not talking, that would be really helpful. I will also be muting myself when I'm not talking. However, when I do need to say something, if you happen to hear a very, very loud train in the background, I apologize. I live near a train track, so I will try to keep that muted as much as possible. And to tell you just a little bit about myself real quick before we get started into the sponsors and then the presentation. Basically, I was invited here tonight by Matt. We've known each other for quite a while now. And the VR has completely transformed my life personally in regards to health. And when my last child was born, I suffered a severe reaction to a medicine I was given in the hospital. I developed blood clots. Everything from my inferior vena cava and down has been clotted, every single vein down there. And so that's basically at your belly button. I ended up being wheelchair bound for a really long time, and then I learned to walk again. It was very painful. I was given narcotics for many years because that was the only thing that even touched it. And basically in 2017, I was introduced to virtual reality. And my son was being deployed to Afghanistan. I tried the headset at a Best Buy, and I immediately, when I put it on, thought, wow, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. But the strange thing was, while I was in that headset, when I came out, I realized that the whole entire time I had that on, which was maybe, just 10 minutes or so, I wasn't hurting. And so I started playing and realized very quickly that it was a a great tool to deal with pain. And so I started using that. Over the past several years, I ended up coming off of all other medication. I now use VR for pain relief. I also use it to stay physically fit and emotionally well. It's where my friends are, and I think it's a fantastic tool for everything from therapy, relaxation, mental wellness to physical fitness, and basically just anything you want to do to improve your health. So that's why we're here tonight, to see what these other experts say about all that. And you guys will have the opportunity to ask them specific questions about that. We have several great sponsors here tonight. And so I'm going to let Matt, let's see who's going first. The first sponsor is Bundler, and I believe Laura is going to speak to that really quick. So thanks to all the sponsors, and also to VRAR Chicago for hosting this event. I actually have gone in to one or two events now to them in person, and it's such a fantastic group. So I really thank Matt and Tom for doing the work they do there and providing these types of events on a regular basis. It's not like they just do this every now and then. They do this regularly, and so it's really fantastic to have these resources out there for the community, not just VR community, but for everyone who wants to know more about this the overall VR scene. So thanks for that. Laura, would you like to talk about Bundler? Is Laura here? Yeah, Lauren.
Right
Lauren,
here.
Sorry. Okay.
I snuck up on you.
Yeah, you did. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Lemieux, and I'm the head of marketing at Bundler. We are an augmented reality company out of Chicago that has developed a no-code platform, making it easy for anyone to create, edit, publish, access, and track augmented reality without having to have any unique developing skills or knowing how to code. So it's extremely accessible and a lot of fun. And it's really transforming from a toy to a tool. So we're at the cusp of widespread adoption. And
Lost your audio.
Sorry, am I in and out?
You were there for a second, yes.
Yeah, you're better now.
Perfect. And I'm extremely excited for tonight because I recently got my first VR headset a couple of months ago, and I definitely get my heart rate up when I play Beat Saber. So I'm excited to see what other applications there are and other ways people get their heart rate going, because I always think it's really fun to make exercise. Well, to make exercise fun in a game, and so the more that we can do that, the more it's not working out, it's playing out. Is that a thing? I don't know, but very excited to be here tonight, and thank you again, VRAR Chicago. This is an outstanding event, and if anyone has any questions about how to make their own augmented reality or wants to learn more about Bundler, there are a couple of us here tonight. Please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks a lot, Lauren. And sorry I was calling you the wrong name. We've talked so much. I don't know why I was doing that. And definitely congratulations on your headset. And Beat Saber is one of the stock games, I think, that belongs in every single VR library. So good job on that choice. And thanks for sharing that with us. So Matt, would you be able to tell us now about 1871, please?
I will. Thank you. It was great last month. We actually had 1871 here present, and they were able to present for us, but today they're a bit busy. So with that, I will talk really quickly about 1871, which is Chicago's technology incubator. They're a sponsor of this event. 1871, I've been a member now for probably going on 7 years at 1871. There were, prior to the pandemic, I think somewhere in the range of 400 to 450 companies based out of 1871. And so, oops, I should go over a little bit. And so what, sorry, I was reacting to Facebook where they said that they can hear me but not see me on stage. But 1871 is Chicago's technology incubator. There's approximately 400 or so technology companies that were based out of there. They have all sorts of programs that help any company in any sort of phase, whether you're just trying to get started and figuring out if you have an idea and you're trying to get started, or if you are essentially a company that's already in existence and trying to scale. They have programs for you. I believe their big program right now is called Pyros. But I would definitely suggest reaching out to 1871. I know they're doing a lot remote, just like every other company in the world right now. So they do have features and capabilities and programming that is working, over webinars and Zoom and calls. And I know hopefully we'll have a lot more to say there in the near future. But 1871 has been great to us for the last, year and a half prior to the actual pandemic. They were hosting us in the physical space, and we really hope to get back there in the very near future. especially with vaccines happening. And I believe I'll just, jump right ahead and introduce the next sponsor, which is Cam from Verbella, if he's here. I thought I saw him in the room. Are you here, Cam?
Yeah, right here. Gonna jump up on the stage. Thanks,
All
Matt.
right, I'm gonna get out of the way then. Thank you.
Hey, all. See a lot of familiar faces. Really excited to be here. Thanks. Yeah, Matt, Chris, Tom, thanks for putting this together. They all have a lot of experience running innovative virtual event engagements and experiences. And yeah, really thrilled for the opportunity to partner and be able to sponsor these events. So I'm Campbell, Dallas Q based in San Diego, California, partner manager at Verbella. If you have any questions, here's my email. Happy to be a resource. You all.
All right, really quick before we get too far ahead, Sonia. I know I'm standing from the side of the stage right now. I just did want to give a quick shout out to our partners that help us promote the event, which would be XR Women, the Independent Game Developers Association of Chicago, 2112, which is Chicago's, creative incubator, and VR Motion Learning. These are groups that have been supporting us and helping promote the event and get the word out about what we're doing here. So I always want to say thank you to them as well. And with that, you can introduce the speakers.
Excellent. Thanks. Okay. So we have 5 speakers with us here this evening, and I like to let speakers introduce themselves, but I'm going to give you just a brief introduction of them, and then we're going to move on into allowing them to do their presentations, which will give you a more in-depth introduction of them. So, because they will do a much better job of that, I'm sure, when they tell you what they're involved with. We have, and if you guys can just try to wave, use F1 whenever I call your name. Patrick McGrath from NOCD is working on OCD therapy and other therapies there. We have Joanna Apello from Reality Well, which is a virtual reality platform for senior living. Guy Weinberg from SIAS, I believe is how you pronounce that. Sorry, I didn't check that with you in advance, guys. I should have checked the pronunciation of that.
Yeah.
We also have Josh Farkas from Cubicle Ninjas, which pioneered wellness and virtual reality with guided meditation, which is very cool. I think that's something that a couple of you guys in the audience we were talking about before in the networking time that you guys are going to be really interested in. And then Ty Hammondtree. Tyrone, we actually met quite a while back at an Oculus Connect, and we've chatted quite a bit about the benefits of virtual reality fitness for students at the high school level. And so that's something that I've been working on with high school and college levels, and trying to make sure that we have this accessibility for everything from elementary and students in high school and college all the way up through seniors. It's important that we realize that VR should be accessible to everyone. So I think it's great that we have different age groups and categories and people recommended or represented here. So that's really exciting. We're going to jump into the presentations because the presentations actually take quite a bit of time for the evening. And I think that's a good thing because you guys can each hear the things that these presenters each have to say about what they're doing. And then following the presentations, we will go to questions and have an opportunity for you to ask more specific questions and details following the presentations. So let's go ahead and get started on that. And we're going to start with Patrick. If let's see here, Patrick, are you ready to do yours first?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Okay, step on over here. See where I am? Come over here by me. I was checking on Facebook. It looks like usually it's a little off to the side, but this is a better spot tonight. Yeah, so just come on over here and I'll step off and let you take over.
Great, thanks. Hi, everyone. Patrick McGrath. I'm head of clinical services for NoCD. NoCD is a downloadable app that you can get for the treatment of obsessive compulsive disorder. We've developed a platform that has therapy tools, an online community, and access to teletherapy right now, all the way from Great Britain to the United States to Australia. And we will continue to grow our clinical network to help more and more people with OCD. In some previous work, I was the head of clinical, or I was the head of the residential treatment center at Amita Health, which is a Chicago area hospital system. And that's where I have used and continue to consult there, use a lot of virtual reality. We treat a good deal of veterans as well as individuals with addictions. And we have used a VR environment to help people to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder and also addiction. So if we could have the first slide. So how do we enhance something called exposure and response prevention therapy, which is the type of work that we do? And why would we use virtual reality in types of therapy? We'll go to the next slide. We know that treatment for anxiety involves having people really face their fears. Talk therapy is not helpful really for anxiety at all. In fact, most people with anxiety do a lot of talking to their friends and to their family and receive typical safety behaviors like avoidance techniques, reassurance, distraction techniques. Substance use can be big among people who have anxiety, OCD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And then you'll get compulsions as well too, things people do immediately to try to neutralize any intrusive thought or image or urge that they might be experiencing. So coming to a therapist to hear all the things they're already hearing from friends and family isn't going to be a very helpful experience. Therefore, we want to move away from a talk therapy, and we want people to do more sitting with their discomfort and facing their fears. Talking to somebody who's anxious is kind of like listening to Charlie Brown's teacher. You don't really understand everything because there's a part of the brain that's activated when we're anxious that really shuts off the ability to do lots of complex processing. So when we're in the fight, flight, or freeze response, talking to somebody isn't really all that helpful because they're not really going to be hearing or listening to you because they're more concerned about getting the heck out of the situation, beating up the person in front of them, or freezing and hoping nobody's there at all. So what do we want to do? We want to learn that it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncertain. It's okay to have doubt. And we want to teach people how to sit with that. So if we can go to the next slide. We know that we can't always put somebody into a feared situation. I can't bring somebody back into Iraq or Afghanistan if they experience something like an IED or a firefight. So I do a lot of work imaginally. I have people think about memories that are intrusive, things that are difficult, things that they have nightmares or flashbacks about. And I want them to sit with those until the anxiety and the discomfort goes away. Right now, what typically happens whenever anybody experiences those, they do whatever they possibly can to try to neutralize it and to make it go away right away. But it's kind of the pink elephant. Once I tell you not to think of a pink elephant, you're going to think of one. So once somebody attempts to not think of their trauma, they're going to think of the trauma that they experienced. Well, what if the opposite were true? What if we purposely told somebody to think of something and sit with it and learn that they could handle it? And that becomes the whole goal of therapy that we do for anxiety disorders. So we can use virtual reality to enhance what we call exposure and response prevention therapy. It's two parts for therapy. We purposely expose people to things that are uncomfortable, and the response prevention piece is getting people to stop doing those typical safety-seeking behaviors that they normally do, because instead of giving people immediate gratification, we want people to learn to sit and how to handle things in the long term instead of going for that immediate relief. So we purposely expose people to things that are uncomfortable and that they fear, and we teach them to stop using all of those safety behaviors. And we want people to recognize this. Anxiety is a very normal or natural evolutionary thing. Sometimes, though, it's going to get activated in situations where it doesn't need to. If you're watching television and suddenly you're having a flashback about something that's happened to you in the past, that's really not necessary in that situation, but our brain has somehow associated something maybe that was on TV or a smell that we just smelled or a sound that we just heard with that experience. And now we go back into having that kind of flashback experience, and we feel as if we're back in that experience all over again. So there's a video that I wanted to show, and if we could roll that video, that would be great, and you'll get a little bit of an idea of what it's like to use VR for
Whilst
therapy.
this may look like a scene from Call of Duty, it couldn't be further from a game. It is in fact a simulation from the Brave Mind program developed by the Institute of Creative Technologies. The ultimate aim for the team is to recreate battlefield experiences to help US soldiers suffering from PTSD. Director of Medical Virtual Reality, Skip Rizzo, reveals how big VR's role is in providing this much-needed therapy.
VR is an evocative technology. It can bring out emotions that sometimes can't come out in other ways. And this is where VR shines. You can put people in simulations that bring up an emotion and then teach them ways to deal with that emotion in an appropriate fashion.
And thanks to the team's hard work, the Brave Mind program has now been introduced into more than 50 hospitals across the US. VR therapy isn't just for extreme cases, though. It can also be helpful in treating day-to-day phobias. This service from the Virtually Better Clinic in the US helps patients to overcome their fear of flying. A short journey from the airport lounge to the seat of the plane seems simple enough to most. But for those who dread flying, this experience is associated with beating hearts, sweaty palms, and severe anxiety. By taking patients on simulated flights, they can confront their fears with the guidance of a virtual therapist. A life-changing experience for many who are held back by this particular phobia. And it doesn't stop there. Virtually Better also has similar programs to help people with phobias of lifts and heights. But whilst VR is proving help in overcoming fears, it's also helping to stimulate minds.
So we can stop there, thank you. And one other piece then would be, we also use addictions as well too. I can bring people into a virtual bar, sit a virtual drink in front of them, and have them experience the cravings and urges that they would normally experience to teach them how to handle those without reaching for the drink and taking the drink. The VR also is very evocative, not just by the sight of it and the sounds, but this VR, the system from Virtually Better that I use there, even has a smell machine. So I can blow the smells of alcohol at you, various types of drinks that you might use to get that to evoke certain kinds of feelings and urges. And in the VR for PTSD, I can blow the smells of burning rubber or gunfire and things of that nature as well too, all to get people to sit with the discomfort of various ways that they could have evocation of fear and the ways that they might respond to that fear. So quick overview there. I hope that that's helpful to everybody, but I know we'll be doing some questions later on and be happy to discuss that with anyone as well too. So thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Patrick. I actually wanted to tell you, Patrick, whenever, let's see. I'll clap, Patrick. Whenever you were doing your presentation, I was thinking back to last year. I actually have never really had an issue with some of the things you mentioned, OCD or, any type of issues like that. But last year I had the first panic attack I ever had in my life, like a bona fide panic attack. I seriously thought I was going to have to go to the ER or something. And not only did I have one, but I had several. Because my husband and I separated last year, and I was just kind of like so completely, totally stressed. And what you said, you don't always want to talk about it. Sometimes you just don't know what to do because you're frozen in a state of complete and utter terror, and you really just don't know what's going to happen. And honestly, the only thing that got me through that was virtual reality. I personally would just go in, and I know a lot of people do relaxation apps, but for me, I would go in and honestly, I played a lot of Beat Saber. I did some Pistol Whip, and I would do more of the violent type games because, well, it was first of all better than hitting the person I wanted to hit.
Yeah,
and
right.
But also there was something about that helped me to get through the time where I could stop having those panic attacks. But it was a very disconcerting thing to have that feeling where you just honestly don't know what to do. So I think the work that you're doing, it's so incredibly important. Like people just honestly have no idea if you're in that situation. Like a fear of airplane stuff. I had that before I began playing VR, and that's the only thing I've ever experienced like that beyond that was just an ordinary thing. And then the panic attacks last year, but VR has definitely helped. So thank you for working in that field and doing that. That's really important.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Let's see, we're going to hear from Joanna next. Joanna, are you ready to do yours?
I think we have Guy next.
Oh, we have Guy next. Okay, Guy, if you'll, sorry about that. Wasn't looking there. Guy, if you'll come on over about where I am. And where are you here? Let's see. Yeah, come on over here, Guy, a little more toward the center if you don't care. And we're just making sure that they can see on face. All right, thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Guy Weinberg, and I'm the U.S. General Manager for Psios. We are a Spanish-based company out of Barcelona, and we provide a virtual reality platform for mental health. Next slide. Next one. Okay, so we've been around for almost 7 years. I've been with the company for less than a year now. We got a pretty good distribution of the platform worldwide with more than 2,000 customers using it, and good presence in North America, Europe, Asia, and so on. Next slide. What or where we started Psios is based on the need to provide therapists a tool to use VR to treat patients. So it's a tool that was developed by and for psychologists. We have a very substantial team of clinicians in our company. And we are working with them and with our customers, our therapists that are using our software to develop the environments and constantly add more environments all the time. Next slide. One of the things that makes Psios unique is the environments. We have more than 70 environments dealing with various issues. Anxiety, depression, phobias, other disorders, and we keep on adding more and more environments all the time. We are doing it internally and also working with other people and other companies, like some of the people here, which I would love to talk about collaboration later on. And we see ourselves as both like a provider of our environments, but also, and even more importantly, a platform that can help other vendors like Psios spread the gospel and spread the news and provide accessible VR therapy to people worldwide. Next slide. So we have a couple of parts to our system that we can that we are using. Next slide, please. We have obviously the VR headset. We also use a biosensor that provides indication about the patient anxiety during the session, and everything is communicated back and forth to our cloud, and from the cloud to the therapist, where he or she can review the session and communicate with the patient throughout the session. Next slide. One of the things that happened to us in the last year during COVID, which I'm sure is something that a lot of you have experienced, is the need to offer teletherapy, which is something that we have worked very hard on the last year, and we added the mobile ability or telehealth ability, basically allowing the session to be done with the therapist on site or in office and also at home. and the session can be done either during a one-on-one session together with the therapist, or with a supervised self-practice. Basically, the therapist can give the patient or the user homework to exercise his or her free time. So that really helped our customers, our therapists, to help patients during COVID. Allowing therapists to treat patients at home and allowing patients to exercise by themselves at their home to ensure a continuum of care and make sure that they get an effective therapy. Next slide. The other thing that happened, and we realized that when COVID happened, is that not everybody can afford or have or has access to a VR headset. So we came up and released a few months ago our mobile app that goes along with a low-cost VR headset that you slip the phone into. And that gives the patients a good enough immersive experience, not as good, obviously, as a professional $300-400 headset, but good enough immersive experience to provide good efficacy of the treatment. And while doing so, we allowed our providers to treat more and more patients in remote and rural areas using teletherapy or telepsychotherapy, which really boomed in the last year, obviously, whereas a lot of people don't go to the therapist, but they still require care, and especially now, as you all know, with everything, with the numbers of anxiety and depression skyrocketing. So providing a ubiquitous way for our therapists to use virtual reality therapy is something that turned out to be very needed and highly usable. Next slide. And that's it. So thank you, and happy to talk with everybody who's interested later on.
Thank you so much, Guy. I'm sure they're going to have some questions about teletherapy and the resources you mentioned. That's excellent. Our next presenter is going to be, sorry, I'm turning it on backwards here. It's going to be Josh Farkas from Cubicle Ninjas, and he's going to chat with us about the guided meditation. So there you go, Josh.
So much, Sonia. Hey, everybody. My name is Josh, and I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Cubicle Ninjas. We started off in VR in the old days of 2014, back when the idea of a VR conference and VR headsets for consumers were kind of like a pipe dream. So you know, it's been crazy to watch the past 10 years kind of unfold. So I know the kind of topic of discussion for today is the next evolution. So what we wanted to do is share a little bit about the past of some of the wellness apps we've built for consumers, but also kind of where we see that future going as well. So yeah, slide. So what we really think about is our goal is building consumer wellness apps that kind of highlight what we call the infinite feedback loop. You know, one of the kind of common misconceptions is that there are only 5 senses. You know, there's the 5 simple senses that we have, but there's some discussion about how many there really are. So next slide. And so before we really dive into that piece, a little bit more about Cubicle Ninjas. Next slide. We do a little bit of everything. We do AR, VR, web, motion, brand, identity. But we've been doing VR now for about 7 years, and we've built over 50 VR apps, including about 15 to 20 wellness VR apps. And so today we're going to be talking about some of the things that we've been building, both in the past and the future. Next slide. And we've been really lucky to build apps for startups, for small companies and big companies in between, folks looking to prototype the future. So that's always fun. Slide. One of my favorite quotes is this quote from Richard Feynman, and it's, suppose a bug of sufficient cleverness could sit in the corner of a pool and just be disturbed by the waves. And by the nature of the irregularities, the bug could figure out who jumped, where, and when. And so going back to the sensory discussion, next slide. We kind of live in a world where, we're told there are 5 senses. People believe there are 21 senses or 32 senses or 50 plus senses. So, one of the things that we think about when we hear about these other senses, one example is heat, right? How do we feel heat or balance? If you've ever been in a VR headset that went a little crazy, you'll know there's a sense of balance that can be horribly thrown off. Body awareness, proprioception, or pain. And so part of our job, we see health and wellness and consumer-focused VR apps as allowing people to have a better sense of understanding of all of those exterior senses. Slide. And so, we're kind of, as users of our own bodies without a user manual, we're kind of lost at sea. Oftentimes when we feel things, we were talking earlier about panic attacks or anxiety, compulsions, even just being depressed. It can be hard to understand why. Slide. And so we're adrift in our own feelings, in our own bodies. Slide. And so, that's it. There's no wonder people get depressed and sad and frustrated and scared. We don't have we don't have a look at the inputs and the outputs of what our body creates. Slide. So I think VR is a little bit more interesting than just what we can do right now. I think for me, what's kind of interesting is the next 5 years out. And I think it's the merger of your biometrics with this VR headset. And so if we have the ability to cover up your eyes and your ears and kind of immerse you in this bubble of another world, that could be a huge benefit in terms of capturing all those inputs. So things like breath or eye movement or EEG are ways for us to kind of filter those things through in terms of a new input for VR. Slide. And so once we have a better understanding of what's happening in our bodies, how we react to certain things, we can be happier people with more control. Slide. To get to the reality of all this stuff, really my hope is just to propose a general ideal. Biometrics for AR and VR, I think, is the future. There's some data that we can capture today. Mainly though, it requires external plugins, as we've kind of already seen. On the horizon, though, I think all this stuff's going to be built in, and really consumer VR is going to have to lead that. The first consumer VR headset that has those things built in has a higher likelihood of adoption. If you know anything about the Quest 2, it's already sold more than every other Oculus headset combined. We're already 6 months in. So I think, that's kind of where my interest is in for that. And then what we can do is learn about ourselves. Right now, you may know a playlist or a movie that makes you feel calm. You may have a YouTube, song that you can chill out to. But effectively, what feedbacks or loops are effective for you in a virtual space? And that's where I feel the future is. Next slide. So in 2014, we built an app called Guided Meditation VR. It was kind of the first consumer-focused virtual reality experience. Slide. We were lucky enough that, we've launched on every major headset since. So Rift, Vive, you can now find us in Steam. It last went for the Go, the Gear. Back in 2016, we started 30 days. We had 1 million heartbeats captured. And we were able to start to take a look at really interesting things where we would do a heart rate sample before and a heart rate sample after and see which environments and meditations would give the biggest delta change. For us, that's the interesting thing. Instead of a user saying, I like this, we can actually take a look at the data itself. Slide. Since then, 2018, we had our first 1 million users in VR, and we have over 100 virtual reality environments, all suggested by users from space to temples and everything in between. Slide. One of the most interesting things that we ended up finding in our research was that people love the exotic. So oftentimes we will find people really drawn to something that's not where they are. In the Midwest, people are going to love beaches. And if you go out to a beachy place, they're going to love forest or caves somewhere cold. What's sort of interesting is we can actually tell when the weather changes, because the same people in beaches now want the comforts of home. Instead of wanting to go to a forest, they want to go back to a beach. Same thing with Chicago. We have one of our environment designers is in Seattle. When it's a nice day, he wants it to rain again. So it's very interesting stuff. Next slide. And another example of this is a Japan scene that we have. Slide. One other thing that we've done in the past is we worked with our partners on the EEG side at Muse to integrate EEG support for virtual reality. In the prototype that we've created, we're able to use alpha and theta waves to adjust the environment dynamically. So in the examples that we shared earlier, if it's an anxious day and you're feeling really stressed, we can actually see that in VR. And as we're able to kind of calm those waves, the environment gets brighter and sunnier. Things like that, of the ability to kind of take those things that data that's hidden there that we don't have a chance to see. That's kind of what we think the future of VR is going to look like. Slide. Even subtle things, like it doesn't have to be hardcore dashboards. Simple things like the ability for the aurora borealis to fade in and fade out based on heartbeat, or for the world to kind of pulse to your own data. That's stuff what we played with and is really, really effective in making a user feel grounded in that space. Slide. Another one that we've tried is using breath and breath control. So as the user has a proper breath control or basically breath pattern, we're able to actually make the world fill with more color, just to help reward them and remind them to kind of breathe in a certain pattern. Slide. And then oftentimes we're used to seeing these sort of representations be done primarily through dashboards. Dashboards are really fun for 2D screens, but we really believe that like making them kind of part of the world is a much more interesting and challenging goal. And so that's kind of how we've been exploring VR so far. Slide. And then over the past 2 years, 2 years ago with the Quest, we started kind of a new exploration of wellness in VR. We created guided Tai Chi. It's a mixture of meditation and movement to kind of allow people to engage with their body, but without having to, maybe not everybody can do Beat Saber. So it's kind of more meditative movement. We've been playing around quite a bit with both competitive modes. So there is a competitive multiplayer sort of score aspect to it. But there's also a flow mode, which is more like a daily meditation practice. Slide. And so we've really found that, what shocked us in this space is that the interest in wellness and VR on the consumer level is way beyond anything that we believed would be possible. Each month we've seen that interest grow as headsets kind of go out there. And we're really excited because we think what began as like this little niche kind of audience has become something pretty remarkable, and I think it's going to continue to grow as headsets do. Next slide. One of the fun things that we do with audio in the app as well is as you place your hands in the orbs, we actually have multiple layers of sound. So if the user is following along properly with the Tai Chi practice, their world is filled with this lush, beautiful, big audio that is telling them they're doing the right thing. But if they miss, the world kind of dulls out. That's another example of how we can use simple things like movement or to kind of reinforce the VR-ness of a wellness experience. Slide. And then I guess one other thing is, how many people here have Quest? Anybody? If you raise your hand, anybody? A few folks? Cool, awesome. Well, if you want, feel free to talk to me after the show. Anybody here who wants can get a free copy of Guided Tai Chi after this. It's a fun app. I think it's really interesting. As much as cool as it is to talk about VR, I think it's much more fun to play VR. And hopefully if that's not something you enjoy, you have a chance to enjoy. And then one secret thing, which don't tell anybody, this is not being broadcast to Facebook, but we also have guided meditation VR coming for the Quest this fall. So we're really, really excited to share a little bit more, but just wanted to kind of share that here. So yeah, next slide. And so kind of wrapping this whole thing up, like this is our goal, right? Like when we started, VR was this little kind of baby thing, and we thought, hey, maybe one day consumer VR will be ready to encourage wellness. What's amazing is all these wonderful people here who are doing that. They're helping people feel better and getting a better sense of who and what they are, and allowing them to kind of get more insight into themselves and make the world a more manageable place. That's a beautiful thing. Slide. And so, you know, we talk about VR as like this transformative technology, but it really is, because people can experience these things in a way that they've never seen before, and walk away from these headsets knowing a little bit more about who they are. Pretty miraculous. Yeah. Sorry, that's it. So much.
Thank you so much, Joshua. It was great to have you for chatting about that. And we are going to go ahead and jump right into hearing from Joanna, who is CEO and founder of Reality Well. Joanna, if you'll come over here just a little ways, come over here by me just a bit. Yeah, I think that would be just about perfect. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. So my name is Joanna. I'm the CEO founder of Reality Well. We are a Toronto-based company. And Reality Well is part of a larger company, which is VR Vision Inc., which specializes for enterprise training solutions. Next slide, please. So with that, I'm the SVP of Operations and Healthcare. I will discuss more about Reality Well in our next slide. Next slide, please. So a little bit of background of the parent company, VR Vision Inc. We started same as other VR companies around 2015, 2016. We mainly focus around experiential marketing in the beginning, until we later focused on virtual reality training for enterprise clients. One of our top clients right now is Toyota and Avangrid. I'm not going to tackle so much about this, but we're also featured in Oculus for Business website, which we had our VR training for renewable wind turbine training was featured. Next slide, please. So yes, a little bit more about Reality Well. It is a virtual reality platform for senior living. The reason why I started this almost 2 years ago, and with the parent company almost 4 years ago. My background is I'm a registered nurse, and being a nurse for almost 14 years, I've seen all the pain and suffering from both of my clients and both from the healthcare facility. And I know that I could deliver more for the industry. So when virtual reality was out with HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, all the way to the Pico Neo Interactive, we've seen so much change from the hardware. And we believe that as the hardware progresses, our software needs to progress as well. And there's really a huge spike when the standalone headset was out. So when Oculus Quest 1 was out years ago, and now we're using Oculus Quest 2, I've seen more shift and more adoption in the healthcare industry, mostly to the senior living industry. They're a bit confused, or they don't know how to use it because it's very cumbersome to use. Now it's very easy, and for them, it's they need something that they could use with just turn of the button, and we don't have to worry about anything else. So with Reality Well, we have 3 kinds of environments. 3 kinds of environments, which is Explore, Expedition, and Excite. Explore is a CG-based environment which you could explore different worlds. And you can actually have an avatar as well with that. And you could talk to each other, be in a large group, interact. And with expedition, it's bucket list experiences, means like we film different kinds of events, sceneries, beaches, mountain, countries in different parts of the world. And the third is Excite. These are exercise games, custom curated and created for the senior living. So actually, just we were talking about Beat Saber. Just imagine that, but specifically catered for seniors. So we made a version that they could really use and adapt, not something really hard, which like an average gamer or like an adult, like 20, 30-year-old would use. So all of our applications and exercise games, especially the serious games, are also in collaboration with University of Waterloo. We're undergoing a research study on that with the research of Institute of Aging to validate all our applications. And through this, we consistently add more applications and curate them, or even like make them easier or harder based from our clients' inputs, and also for the healthcare professionals' inputs. So just think about it, it's like a Netflix for seniors, but it's all in VR that we continuously add applications and can continuously improve how we create it. So nowadays, most especially with the pandemic, I don't know if everyone is aware, there's actually a lot of research study has been put in the market because of course pandemic, a lot of people can't see their families, and a lot of them are is either depressed or it really increases their early stage of dementia. There's a lot of research studies been put out, I think even this month or last couple of months, that virtual reality really helped a lot of our seniors to combat this depression, because just imagine like with virtual reality they will be able to explore and go to different worlds, and at the same time exercise their upper body strength and be able to increase their cognitive ability with at the same time having fun. So that's the main goal of what we do in reality. Well, we really to have quality life for all seniors. And so we work hand in hand with facilities with this. It's a collaborative effort because I always, as well, the facilities, not everyone is eligible to be in VR, most especially our vulnerable senior industry. And I always give them at least 3 criteria for this: their eyesight, hearing, and balance. So as a nurse, I always tell them to have this assessment beforehand because I really don't know the history of their clients. So the eyesight, you could still wear your glasses. It can still fit in the VR headset. But if they have a terrible eyesight, then they're not going to have a good time. And for the hearing, most of our senior population have hearing aids, and that's okay as well. But at the same time, if it's really a terrible like hearing ability already, then they won't have a great time as well. And the third is like their balance. All of our applications is based for a sitting position, or they could lie down, or they could be in the wheelchair. So all the pixels from the application, from the environment and interactions is created to that. And so they could really do this all the time in a seated position. And of course, things as like having a pacemaker, that's one of my criteria as well. If they have that, I suggest that they're not a good candidate for using virtual reality. Actually, like in Chicago, I have one of our, I should like want to say that one of our clients is CJE Saif. It's a Jewish community in Chicago. I flew there 2 years ago. They have 12 headsets that they have right now, Oculus Quest 1, because there's no Oculus Quest 2 back then. And yeah, they're still loving it. We actually custom create a content for them, not just reality. We have an Israel content that our team flew all the way to Israel just to custom curate application for them. So we create a lot of bucket lists and different kinds of environment, what we have in the company, but we also can curate custom applications for each client. So that's what we do. And yeah, this can all be integrated either if they have their LMS or like a login program, we do that as well. And yeah, everything is standalone and with a mobile control and very easy. It's like almost a plug and play, like I was saying. So yeah, you could reach me on my LinkedIn, Joanna Pello. And yeah, if anyone has questions, later on. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, VRAR Chicago, Tom and Matt. Thank you, Sonia, for moderating. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Joanna. I'm sure they'll have some questions about that at the end. Next, we're going to go ahead. We have a few minutes left before we start questions from you guys and the audience on Facebook. So if Ty would join us on stage, and we'll let him get started. Thanks a lot for joining us, Ty. Go, Ty. Oh, Ty's trying to figure out how to get up here because I think he's actually doing this in headset, which is pretty cool. Can you walk over this way just a little bit, Ty, to this side of the stage? Yeah, thanks a lot.
Got you
okay,
right
there you go.
Good deal.
Have fun.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Ty, or Tyrone, as you can see here. Either way is fine. If you yell at me, I'll turn around. I've been an educator in secondary education since 2008, so that's about 13 years. And coming in as out of industry and starting off as a computer science teacher, I ended up teaching a lot of other tech electives because they figure, well, you know how to use a computer, so you know how to do everything else. So, and I do. So it worked out okay. Next slide, please. All right, so what I'm talking about today is something that I've constantly trying to build on as a VR community builder, along with Sonia and several other people here, is trying to get VR into certain spaces. Mine in particular is high school. And I want to show the value of what VR headsets and what VR in general can do for the student body, for the admin, everybody. And one thing was to show how it's not just about field trips. It's not just about a one-off kind of science experience where you can go visit the International Space Station or something like that. That's kind of where a lot of secondary education is seeing VR right now. So one of the best ways I could see people understanding what we have, the potential we have with VR, is showing off VR esports and especially the athletic side you can get with that. So I pulled together 46 students. Some of them came in willingly, some of them didn't, which is perfect for what we were trying to do, but they were willing to get into VR. Of those 46 students, they were all roughly the same age. We split it right down the middle, male and female. We had half of them go in and do traditional PE. We kind of mirrored the same experience you'd have with the VR esports that we picked, which you can see down here: Echo Arena, Creed, and Sprint Vector. These are all very active kind of VR esports that are going to use your upper body quite a bit. You're going to have to squat, get your legs in there, and really the kids were working up a huge sweat at the end of this, which was unexpected for almost everybody except for myself, which I was pretty happy to see. We used CV1s because this was back in 2018, just right before the Quest really came out to everybody. And we ran this for about 6 weeks. Then we swapped everybody so we could have them both go through the VR PE experience. And as I said before, we're just kind of mirroring the cardio side of this. We wanted to try and get into some more weightlifting kind of stuff because some of the people at the end were really wanting to try and do that. But everything here is mostly cardio and dexterity kind of things. Okay, let's get the next slide. So a lot of the information we have here is going to be based off of how these people were getting any kind of workout through surveys, through some data that we're able to pull from devices. Most of that would be just kind of how they were performing inside of the game. A lot of these issues that we were facing at the time could be solved through a lot of the things that Oculus and Facebook have put in with the motion kind of set it up right now, where we can track some of the calories, and we could even use some low-level straps to keep track of any cardiorespiratory information we were going to get a hold of. But this helped us get to a point I'll be able to talk about here in just a second. So all this is coming from the students themselves. They were a little bit hesitant. Like I said, not everybody was willing to just jump in, but they were willing to give it a shot. And so we had some hesitancy at the beginning. As you can see, it changed quite a bit towards the end. And there was still some people who, those are generally the folks who had motion sickness issues, but were still kind of into the idea. They liked the idea, even though it didn't work for them. They liked how everybody else was digging it. And then the last, 5%, which has ended up being like maybe 1 or 2 students, were just like couldn't be bothered, which is going to be in every group. Can't really get around that. So I felt like that was a pretty good change, pretty good swing there. All right, next slide. So one of the things that I really liked about this was the amount of engagement I got from the students. Now, people in general want to get outside. They want to leave the building. They want to have something to do outside. And these kids were totally fine. These are kids who wanted to be outside, but they were totally fine in VR. They were engaged. They wanted to keep going. They wanted to keep pushing themselves. And seeing that there was more that felt that engagement inside VR than just in traditional PE, I was really happy to see that at the end of this. And this is what we aggregated from both groups after they switched. So it didn't seem to matter male or female, and no breakdown whatsoever. This was pretty much across the board as far as these stats that we got. So it was nice. It was a small sample, as I say, to get us kind of started, and we'll get to tell you where we're going from here. Let me go ahead and get the next slide. All right, this is one of my kids right here. One thing about taking pictures of kids in headsets is that you can't really tell who they are, which is great. This is one of my favorite kids that would just try and tear through any track in sprint vector. And he was one of the people that I wanted to make sure got a good workout. So that at the end, when I asked his teacher right after VRPE, like, is he calm today? And she said, oh, yeah, it was great. Did he have regular PE or VRPE? I was like, it was VRPE today. And she was so happy that we were able to wear him out with what she called video games, that she was, was welcome anytime. But this is one of those guys I wanted to make sure we got him, and we were able to satisfy his physical needs of, being out and running around and still being inside. We were able to contain him in the space. There were several others, and we had a really good kind of experience working with these kids. So as you can see here, a lot of these statistics are looking really good for us. Everything seems pretty nice so far. Let's go ahead and get the next slide. So this is where I wanted to get with a lot of this, because as I was wanting to see was how are these kids going to see this getting used in other classes, and obviously they started talking about it as we were going through the study, and a lot of them were thinking about bringing it to other teachers and talking about how they could use it in those other spaces. Of course, I've already been talking to them. I'm also the VR director at the school that I work at. So we've already started incorporating VR, but this helps get the kids more involved with it, gives them a good point of focus for it. And from there, I think the increase from 64 to 91% was really good. Everybody else, as we said, we're just going to have some people that just don't really care where they're at. They're just not going to want to be there. And that's going to be the case no matter what. So 91%, that's better than chance. I think that's pretty good. I like that increase that we had just through demoing a lot of different spaces for these kids, showing what we can do in VR, and then even offering other opportunities at different times to demo VR in other capacities. So I'm going to get that next slide. Okay, so here's some of the things we got from some of our survey data. We always wanted reflections. We did video reflections. We did a lot of different kinds of information gathering as we went through this. One of my favorite ones is kind of the second one from the bottom, because this is when a parent came to pick up their kid right after VRPE, and she came running out, just sweating, just dripping all over the place. And mom was like, what are you doing running through school? And she said, no, I just came out of VRPE. It's like, what do you have? You play something and you run around, you play something, you run around. She's like, no, we're in VRPE. And she dragged her mom back. She got done real early because she knew she had to go out for this appointment, and people were still playing, and mom got to see VRPE for the first time. And she was astonished. She had no idea that we were able to do this. She just assumed that her kids were playing video games and just let it happen. He's like, well, it's fine. This is the world I live in now. My kids play PE, go play video games for PE. It's fine. But my kids are actually coming in saying, my shoulders are sore, man. I worked a lot harder than I ever have before. And all I had these little touch controllers at the end. It wasn't even arm wrist. What happened if I actually put some weight on the end of these things and I played Sprint Vector or Creed or got into Echo Arena and had some elastic bands on, tied from my waist to my... These kids were starting to think about ways to make this more difficult and challenging and build up a lot more than just their cardio health. So I really liked a lot of what I was getting from these kids. And like I say, not everybody wanted to be there. So to see some of these responses was really, really kind of nice to to get at the end of this. Let's go ahead and hit one more slide. I think this is probably our last one. Okay, so one thing that a lot of teachers like to hear, this kind of setup, easy classroom management. Everybody's focused. I had a coach, that, as you can see here, that's the girl that's standing behind the other one, making sure that they didn't plow into the table, they didn't break anything. You always had somebody watching you. So it compartmentalized everybody into their own little groups. One person was focused into a space, the other person was there for their safety. Classroom management was easy. Even for the people that were inside VR, if we had a social experience, it was easy for me to manage them in there as well. They were engaged, they wanted to be there. The body language that we were translating to each other while we talked was just amazing. I was able to get a lot back from them, so I could tell how we'd work at a distance in VR. There was just some awesome stuff there. The time and friction to get into VR was an issue, but we were using CV1s at the time, so there'd be driver problems, there'd be updates, there'd be all sorts of horrible stuff that would just get in our way to get in, and then those were all fixed when the Quest came out. So it's kind of like, well, hey, you just give it a little bit of time and what you need is going to be there. There are some issues that we have to deal with on the ID side, but the Quest is pretty much what I'm looking at right now for high school. As far as level playing field, this lady right here was probably my best Creed player. She was the best boxer there, and she took on everybody. She just came in and was just started talking trash. And I had to actually sit her down at one point in time and say, look, you can't do that. We're going to talk about sportsmanship right now. But she was mean. She was real. I mean, she was a really good fighter, and it was great to see her swagger around that place and just see the whole dynamic change around the whole place, because there was a dynamic in VR and then the whole other one in corporeal space. And it was awesome. It was really cool. I liked that a lot. But the level playing field's there. Everybody plays everybody. It doesn't matter. As long as you don't get motion sickness or you can work sit, everybody can play. The kids were talking about the VR experience constantly. They remembered everything about it. That was one thing we'd noticed with traditional PE. Now the filters might have been up and they were just letting everything just fall away, and they didn't care too much about what they were doing during PE, but they definitely didn't go back and revisit things that we asked them to go back and think about. Like, oh, hey, during this activity, what do you remember at this time? The VR stuff was way more crystal in everybody's mind. And also they went back and referenced those things. They went and referenced the times that they did certain things in VR way more than they did inside of their traditional PE class. All right. For the future, yeah, we're looking at personal VR headsets for our high school. And we're going to, because of this study, I've got UT working with us for our next one that's are going to be starting probably in March with a group that we have just scattered around the United States, and then with my local group in Austin, probably starting in the fall. So I think that's my last one. Let me just check real quick, but yep, that's pretty much it. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ty. That's great. I forget I can't clap and walk at the same time. So every time I stop to clap, it makes me stop walking. But it's so cool we can clap in here, don't you guys think? So did you guys know we can do other things too? Okay, we're getting ready for questions. But before that, all the panelists have something to do for you. Are you guys ready? You ready?
Oh, I got to
Wake
stand
everybody up. Everybody stand up real quick. And remember, F7 on 3, 2, 1. Guys, go. Look, some of our audience is doing it too. That's great.
There we go. There we go.
Okay, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed those. They're still dancing. Those presentations. That was excellent. And we're going to take questions now. So remember that you will need to raise your hand, press the little button down at the bottom, and then I will call on you. Once I call on you, you will just need to unmute yourself, and please remember to put your hand down. So raise your hand, I'll call on you, then you'll unmute and put your hand down. So do we have somebody who would like to start it off, kick off the questions?
Hey, before you get there, can we have all the presenters actually join Sonia closer to the center of the stage?
Oh yeah, that's true. I meant to have
That
you
way
walk
you're on
over
the
here.
camera shot.
Sorry guys, I meant to have you walk over here after we danced and I forgot. So. Yeah, I meant to actually have a walk over here before we danced and I completely forgot. That would have looked more impressive. So everybody scrunch in just a little bit so we can get the view on Facebook, because it's a little bit smaller than it is here. And let's see. So I'm looking here and, oh, sorry guys. Bear in mind, this is the first time I've hosted, so I'm trying to get used to a few things here as well, but or moderated. We're going to start with Carol. So, Carol, what's your question? And so, if you could just ask your question and let us know if it's for somebody specific or if it's a general question for the panel. If you all have a question for the panelists, if you could just keep your questions kind of short so that others have an opportunity to answer, that would be awesome.
Sure. I have a question for Joanna. You talked about using the VR headset for seniors, and in my mind, I'm picturing nursing homes, that kind of thing. Do they find that it's cumbersome or a little bit, or is it painful or uncomfortable for elderly people to use the VR headsets?
Hi, thanks so much for the question. So, like what I mentioned a while ago, I don't really recommend it for everyone. That's what I always tell all the nursing facilities, retirement homes. We really pick the best clients first, meaning like who are ambulatory or like conscious and coherent, before we go to the really vulnerable ones like first stage dementia. So we really advise. I rely so much on the SME, the subject matter expert on that facility. Either it's a nursing director or a recreationist physiotherapist. And I rely on them, honestly, because I don't really see these clients and I don't know what their diagnosis is like. But so far in general, since most of our facilities are promoting this to their best clients, most of them, they really like it. And they do it first on the best clients, while the other vulnerable group are just watching in the beginning. Then eventually it's up to them if they want to try it as well. But so far with the change of hardware, I really like the Oculus Quest 2 compared with the other headsets, just because I know it's not the lightest headset, but it improved a lot from the HTC Vive with the PC powered. And I know I have high hopes with Oculus that it will be like getting more like advanced and better in the future time. But if the weight distribution of it's a bit better than other headsets. That's why we use it, and we are an Oculus partner. We are an ISV vendor, independent service vendor of Oculus for Business.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you so much, guys. All right, next question. Just one second. I actually am having a little bit of a hard time seeing the hands raised. So I'm going to go over here because all the names are in front of me. So I'm going to step off to the side just a little. Let's see here if we have any questions on Facebook. No? Does anybody else in the audience have a question? Oh, Nicole, could you ask your question, please?
Sure. So a few of you guys actually spoke about somehow putting smells into the VR headset, and I'm just curious how that is doable, or I'm just curious of how that is achieved.
For the virtually better work that we do, the control panel, which is on one of the screens that I use, and then I can see what's going on in the VR on the other screen. On the control panel are a series of buttons that connect the computer to an actual smell box, and we have inside of that box little containers that are beads that are infused with certain smells. There's a company that sells them, and so when they run out, we purchase new ones and we put them into there, and there's a little fan in that box. So each compartment has its own little fan with an air compressor in it that when I hit the button, puts a puff of air through there, and then the fan blows it out of a grate into the room.
Gotcha. Do you find that the participant likes it, or do they find it more overwhelming?
It's evocative is really what it's supposed to be. So we know that smells can be amazing triggers for people for flashbacks and nightmare experiences. So when we've got the smells of burning rubber or for gunfire, we can really trigger some anxiety for people who have post-traumatic stress disorder, because that brings them back to memories of Iraq or Afghanistan. We'll also get people who go through addiction treatment who say, I think I'm good to go, I'm ready. And then I put them through the VR and I put that drink in front of them and I blow the smell of it at them. And they're starting to get urges and cravings, and their mouth is watering and they're sweating and you can see them fidgeting. And often they'll say, I might need another day or two just to practice this a little bit more before I feel like I'm ready to leave. And in that sense, it's been a wonderful experience for people to recognize not always are you quite ready as you think you are, and maybe it's good to have a little bit more practice.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Of course.
Thanks for the question, Nicole. It's great. I saw somebody else. I'm not sure if Carol was next. I thought I saw another hand in the middle. Somebody else have a hand up for Carol? Oh, wait, there it is. There it is. I can't see it wrong. So I was looking for you, James. James, could you go ahead and put your hand down, unmute your mic, and ask your question, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much.
Awesome. So this can kind of be a question for everybody. I'm also very interested in VR for both fitness, mindfulness, you name it. Obviously, we're in the age of coronavirus, so a lot of people have become more and more, for lack of a better word, germophobic. For those of you that are utilizing VR with multiple individuals per day, how are you going about, disinfecting it? There are options like CleanBox VR that I know, and what sanitation wipes, you name it. Obviously, with fitness, you can become fairly sweaty and etc. During each session. But just curious how each of you are handling it in between clients, students, patients, you name it.
Did you want each of the panelists? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Whoever wants to respond.
This is Guy. I'll answer. I can say that for our customers, therapists, in our case, we offer the usual stuff: clean box, wipes, cleaning instructions, and that usually does the work and mitigate both the fear of catching something from the VR. And it also works. That is, by the way, one of the reasons that we came out with the app and the low-cost personal headset. So people can use their own headset, even if they are seeing a therapist, and without any fear. But we found out, and our therapists have found out the same, that when you apply the proper mitigations for cleaning, patients feel safe even during COVID.
Did that answer your question, James?
It did. Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. And I think there's actually someone here from CleanBox tonight. And who is that?
Yeah, hi, it's me, Sebastian. Nice to meet you all.
Hey, Sebastian, that's great. So I actually had met Amy a while back at an event a long time ago. And man, she is such an awesome lady. If you guys have questions about CleanBox technology, I would recommend that after, when we have some time, that you chat with Sebastian. Would that be okay, Sebastian?
Thank you. Actually, I was just writing it on the chat, so thank you for saying it.
Okay, yeah. If you guys reach out to them if you have any questions about that. It's really cool stuff. So, Carol, did you have a question next?
I did have another question. This question is for Josh. You had mentioned being able to see people's heart rate. How do you get that information? From the equipment itself, or is it from some other way that you're able to see that? And then a second part of that question that you could answer, or anybody could, you also talk about, or people talk about motion sickness around VR headsets. And I know there are medications out there for general motion sickness for other things. Does that medication also work for VR headsets?
So yeah, in terms of heart rate, we've tried a lot of different things. When we in the olden days of VR, when you had to place a phone into a headset and use it that way, a lot of phones on the back had heart rate sensors built in, or I should say Samsung phones at the time. So what we were doing was tapping into that functionality and allowing a user to place their hand on the back of the device and encouraging them to do that. We've also used a bunch of different technologies, though, over the years. So whether that is an Apple Watch or different kind of both consumer and pro-grade medical bands, chest straps, and other things along those lines. But what we sort of learned is adoption rate for that stuff is really, really low. It's hard enough to get somebody into VR, let alone into a headset plus all these accessories. So at least for consumer side, it's less likely until that stuff gets baked in. And then just in terms of kind of motion sickness, at least and this is probably a more general question, but at least on our side, it absolutely does work if you take the same sort of medications that you would take. When we were originally testing in older headsets, we would often have a bottle of Dramamine next to our tables when we were testing frame rate to see if we could survive the night. I would wake up and actually look around and go, "Oh, reality has good frame rate, neat," and then would go back to sleep. So yeah, what's nice though is modern headsets are just so lovely that the frame, the conversations about motion sickness, at least that we've seen, it almost rarely ever comes up. It's a kind of very small issue nowadays.
And do you anticipate the hand controllers ever having like the ability to have that sensor in there to check a person's heart rate?
I am betting on it. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think within the next 5 years, we will have EEG and heart rate ability to capture heart rate, or HRM or HRV calculations, like based on those things. But yes, I think what's kind of happening right now is we're treating VR like we treated like a video game console. So it's like, hey, we can move vertically, forward and backwards, and press a button, and all these sorts of things that come from the concepts of like traditional gaming consoles. But what makes VR really unique is all this other stuff that's on top of it that could never have happened in any other medium. And so I think there's that. I also think, if we take a look at the platform holders, they all tend to be people who are data focused. So whether that is a hypothetical Apple or a Facebook, we have people who want to have access to your information, to be able to use it in a varied set of ways. Not having more access to you is something that I would say Facebook might be interested in. So.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's a great question and answer. We actually had something come in on Facebook, and the question was, can VR, AR help treat sleeping disorders and eating disorders? And, we saw that touched on during the presentations, but I was thinking maybe, I'm not sure if we heard from, who would like to take that one?
Yeah, this is Guy. Let me answer that.
Okay, great.
Yes to both. Sleep and eating disorders is something that we treat. With sleep, the idea is to get you more relaxed before you go to sleep. So a lot of mindfulness environments, a lot of breathing exercises, meditation that should help you sleep better. Also helps, for example, we found out that when we work with patients suffering from PSD, and they exercise VR-based mindfulness before they go to sleep, then they suffer less from nightmares and they sleep better. In terms of eating disorders, that's something an area where I think VR can actually help a lot. We do have, for example, body image environment where you look at yourself in the mirror, and the therapist can adjust what you see. thinner, fatter, looks, and change the way that that you look, along with behavioral therapy, where we put people in stage scenarios, like talking with people at the bar or dancing at a club, and interacting in ways that are related to body image, that helps with eating disorders, along with other environments, like putting you in a restaurant and working with the patient on what to eat and how to eat, and so on. I think that there are a lot of therapeutical techniques that are being used today by therapists that can be applied to VR, and that's I think the main challenge. How do you take something that is being used by therapists and convert it into the VR world and put it in the hands of therapists, allowing them to treat more and more patients? And I think that together with everybody's here on the stage and in the room, we'll be able to push this to the clinical community worldwide.
Thank you, Guy. We actually had a question come in. I think you've kind of addressed some of this here, so I'd like to move this specific part of that question over to Patrick, because this is going to have different answers, I think, depending on who you're talking with. So it could have different perspective. You addressed some of this, but Patrick, there was a specific question that came in on Facebook, and Paula asked, how many VR sessions does it take to heal someone of a disorder? And also, can the mind and body handle consistent days of treatment, or is it spaced out to one time weekly? Or basically, how do you determine, how the treatment is administered?
I think it just depends on the level of therapy you're doing. You can do this in standard 1-hour individual therapy sessions. I've also run intensive outpatient partial hospital programs, which are 5 days a week, 3 to 6 hours a day, and residential treatment, which is daily. And VR could be a component of something even daily for people as well. We imaginally expose people, or actually expose people, to things on a daily basis when we're doing this therapy live. VR is just another component of it as well.
Okay, great answer. And probably this, I would like to hear anybody who knows the answer. This is a great question. Are any of you aware that insurance companies have accepted VR as treatment? Have any of you actually seen this? Or is it still where pretty much people are purchasing the apps and or paying for the treatment themselves?
For us at the hospital, it's just part of the work that we do. So I can say that we don't bill separate or anything like that.
Okay.
In our case, this is Guy. In our case, our therapists are billing for the psychotherapy with the usual billing codes, and when they do the telepsychotherapy, they are billing in addition to the psychotherapy codes. They are billing the relevant telemedicine codes. And we found out that most payers, Medicare, Medicaid, and the private insurance companies do pay for that without issues. So the trick is obviously to find the existing codes and piggyback on them, because today there are no real dedicated codes for VR therapy, like there are no codes for a lot of other stuff in the digital therapeutics world. I think and I encourage everybody who is working with patients and charging for it to try and use it, and I'm happy to talk with people about it. That's something that we have been very involved and active about. I think that that's a great way to motivate providers and therapists to use VR more and more. In our case, for example, by allowing therapists to use VR for telepsychotherapy and bill for it. Something which is quite challenging for them to do when they FaceTime with a patient. That gives them an additional revenue stream and the ability to increase their revenue during COVID, which is a great motivator for therapists and providers to implement VR in their practice.
Yeah, I think that people need to remember too. We are kind of in a fortunate situation in the fact that right now we are still in pandemic mode, and basically telemedicine is a great way to, that code. I used to do medical billing. Telemedicine, as long as you don't have to specify that it isn't VR, it's still an option there, like with their phone or their computer. So that's a fantastic code to use for that, and they could test that with their patients. We have a question from Steph, I believe. Steph, can you unmute and put your hand down? Are you still here, Steph?
Yes, still here.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Great.
I actually put my hand down because the question was answered, but it was along the lines of motion sickness, coming from a person myself who has really bad motion sickness. I know that anytime I've used any VR in the past, I get nauseous. So I was just curious to hear about that, and I think it was Josh that answered that for us.
Okay, very good. And one quick thing about motion sickness, I've talked with many people in the industry who actually, some people, experience motion sickness in VR. One trick for that is don't use the motion sickness tools for whatever reason. For some people, they actually make you more sick. I never get sick in VR unless I turn on vignette or motion sickness tools. Make me sick every time. So if you think you get motion sickness in VR, maybe turn that off and see if it's better. And the other thing is, we're seeing, these guys probably know this already, but we're seeing lots of evidence that VR is curing motion sickness for some people. I've talked to people in the military about that and across the industry where it's a really unique phenomenon. So fascinating stuff with that. I think we're going to move on into networking. I'm going to let Matthew introduce that and tell how we're going to set that up. And then that way you guys can ask the panelists questions, or you can chat with Sebastian about Cleanbox or anybody else you have questions for. It's great to have you all here and participating in the conversation. We've had a lot of people watching tonight on Facebook and in the actual conference hall. Thank you so much for coming. And I hope you will stick around and meet some of the panelists and to chat with them a little more directly. Thank you for letting me moderate tonight. And I hope you guys will be able to get some more specific answers in the networking time. So Matt, do you want to go ahead and tell them about that?
Absolutely. So thank you, Sonia, for hosting. And, especially, again, with the stories that you told me over the years just about your own sort of journey with VR and fitness and health, it made sense that you were going to host this one. So thank you again for coming in and
thank you.
Being our second guest host to host the event here in Virbella. Before we get going, we do, as always, we have a full schedule. And so we do this event once a month. For those of you who haven't been here before, we generally do it on the first Wednesday of the month, unless that falls on a holiday. So we hope to see you back here. Let me see if I have a slide that shows what the upcoming topics are. There we go. I do have a slide that tells me. So in May, we will be approaching, this is one that we kind of held off on doing this one for a while. Although we knew that we had a lot of interest from the start, that we are actually doing an event in Virbella on live events, particularly, in relation to what's happened in the industry over the last year with virtual reality, augmented reality, and the live events industry in general. I know at least two or three of the people who I met coming into this event had mentioned that they were actually event planners for people who work in the events industry. And so we will finally be doing our first panel specifically on live events and how essentially virtual reality and augmented reality have affected this industry. And that will be hosted, that'll actually be guest hosted again next month by Chris Wren, who is, first of all, my brother, but also he's been working professionally in live events for close to 2 decades at this point, if not longer, professionally, as well as, at least for the last year, he's been very specifically focused on coordinating live events in virtual spaces as well as online events for VRAR Chicago. So with that, what I'm going to do here in a moment is I'm going to make all of those seats that you people are sitting in go away, and I'll do that right about now. And what's just going to happen is in a few moments here, I'm going to turn private volumes on the floor. So as you look down around the space, if you are in a blue circle, you will be in a private volume. You will only be able to hear the people who are in the blue circle, and only the people in the blue circle will be able to hear you. If you are outside of a blue circle, the people in the blue circles can't hear you. So you do actually have to be inside to speak with them. We love the networking actually is where a lot of the value of this event comes through. The panelists, with the exception of Dr. McGrath, who had to leave, he messaged me right at the end of the Q&A that he actually had a family emergency and had to take off. But everybody else, this is your chance to get one-on-one time with these people who are effectively experts in this industry and in the space. So please feel free to talk to them. That's why we're here. Other than that, I'm going to turn on private volumes in just a second. Thank you all for attending. Once again, we hope to see you next month. Thank you very much to all of my presenters and panelists. We love having you guys come and share your knowledge with the group. And again, this event is for our audience, so thank you very much. Private volumes are coming in about 10 seconds, after which I will kill the live stream. So thanks again also everybody who's watching on Facebook. And with that, private volumes are going to turn on right now. Thanks once again, Sonia. I'm going to go kill the live stream, and I'll be back to do some networking.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you again, everybody in Facebook.
Hey, Josh, can you come over to the circle for a moment? You can join us,
Absolutely.
Jay, if you have questions too.